I'm Kathy from Eclectic Images and welcome to another Crafting with Kathy. In today's tutorial we're doing some more work with the brayer. So we've already done one where we started out doing some basic brayering on gloss and matte card. Today we're going to be using the brayer on a gel plate and seeing what beautiful effects we can get for scenes by doing that. So I'm going to be working with the Ranger gel plates. I'll use the bigger one and the smaller round one, and I'm also using the Ranger pink brayer. The inks we're working with are going to be some Versafine plus some of the Catherine Pooler colours. Now with the Ranger, the Dylusions pink brayer, it is a hard brayer, which is what's recommended for on the jelly plates. It also has these cute little feet on it, which means that if you've got it inked up and you need to put it down, you can pop it down and the inks part of the roller is not touching your work surface. It does mean though that when you're working with it, you need to make sure you've got those facing up so that you can actually reach your work surface. Now my layout here today, I've got a little bit of scrap paper here for rolling my brayer off, and that hopefully will create another bit of a background while we're working with stuff. I've got my big gel plate here, and I've tucked my card that I'm going to use just in under the edge of the gel plate, just so that I make sure that I get my colour blending happening in the area that's covered by the card. It's no good getting some beautiful blending out here and then when I ink my card up, it's only inked on this section. So this is helping me to remember what size the card is, so what area of the gel plate to cover with the ink. Now, different to when you're braying on gloss card. When we're braying on gloss card, and we're wanting to cover a section of card evenly, we want to make sure that we roll the brayer over our inks and get ink all the way around. We're doing on the gel plate, we don't need anywhere near as much ink. So I'm actually just going to wipe a little bit of grots off my brayer, just going to wipe over the yellow, and just one or two little touches like that is enough. Because we're actually wanting to get a very soft blend between the colours. So we need less colour. We put it on a section, and then I'm going to go up a bit and down a bit so that I'm actually creating really soft edges that the rest of my inks will blend into. Now let me just take a quick look and make sure I'm getting the right length on the card there. Yep, so just make sure we get it nice and long. So that's our yellow. Wipe it out on our scrap. Now I don't need to stop and clean my brayer at this stage because I'm going into from lighter to darker colours. Let's start off, and I'll start off on the edge of the plate and work in till I've got it blending. Okay, so now I can work that into the yellow and then clean it off on my scrap a little bit. Now I'll pick up a little bit of Be Mine, which is a lovely pink. Start on the edge of the plate again, then work it into the orange. It's quite fun because you can see where the colours are going, but you're still not 100% sure of what you're making until you get to the stage of actually doing the impression of it. Now we get a little bit of Sangria. This is a strong one, so we don't need much of it. And again, let's start off right on the edge of the plate. Smooth that out till we see how now that edge is going softer. So now I can start to work that into the other colours. If I went straight on, I'd just get a hard line. So I'm on the edge of the plate and then working in a little bit. And I can see where my card is, so I need a little bit more so that we're going to see that colour. Okay, let's clean that one off on our paper. Now this time I'll turn the paper around so I can clean other colours up the other end of it. And I'm also going to give my brayer a clean on my damp cloth, because I'm now switching to a little bit of a different colour family for the water part of our card. So this is where we're going to pick up some Skylight. And now we're starting at the bottom edge and working up. You're not putting any pressure on the brayer. We don't want to make any imprints. We just want the colour to blend. And again, I'm switching now to a darker colour, so I don't need to stop and clean my brayer. On the edge, and then work it up into the other colour. So I'm going longer than what I need to make sure I've got plenty of coverage for the card, but I know I can see that my darker colours will just reach it. Let's clean off on our scrap paper. That's going to be fun, that background, I think. I'll have to spritz that with some water afterwards and see what we get. Okay, pop my brayer down and move my scrap paper out of the way. Now there's two ways of doing this. I'm going to give it a little spritz with some water. I could lay the card down on top and just press, but it's actually a bit more fun to pop your card down and put your brayer onto the card. Just which way up I want the card to go. Later on, because then you can see what's happening. So I'm going to pop it down, seeing that I've got some of the darker colours coming on. And then give it a bit of a smooth. Oh, that's just wonderful. And of course, I'm only going to do one impression, but if you wanted to, you could actually spritz that again and do some other bits of card on it and make more of that of the ink that you've already got on that plate. Okay, so there's our bit of backing card. That's fantastic. Now we could also, being a water reactive ink, we could give that a spritz and wipe some other bits of card through it. So this one technique, we can actually make 2 or 3 backgrounds, or actually when you count your scrap paper as well that you've brayed your excess off onto, that's probably 4 backgrounds we'd create from the one lot of inking. But I'm just, at this stage, just going to move that out of my way. And I've got a second background that I'll do while that one's drying. This time we're going to use the circular plate. So I've got another bit of card and a few stamps already ready. Did I clean my brayer before? Let's make sure I've got that really nice and clean, because again, I'm switching colour families for this one. And this one's going to use our gum leaf wreath, which is a lovely Aussie Christmas stamp, and our little Kookaburra as well. But we'll create our background first. So let's get out our little circle gel plate. And this time we're going to, and I'm just going to reuse my scrap paper a bit. No, it's already been used both sides. So what colours have I got here? I've got polished and Mandarin spice and some rose petals. I think we'll go that order for them. They'll blend a bit better that way. Now I could start one side and work across, and I think that's what I'll do because the rose petals is the lighter of the colours. So a little bit of ink and just on the edge of our plate. Now you've got to be careful here because you're going to tend to tip because it's a small plate, so you've actually got to sort of hold the brayer up a bit. Give it a bit of a wipe because I actually did get a fair bit of ink on there. Pick up some polished. Now this time I'm going to start from the other side and work back into that pink. And then pick up some Mandarin spice, which is our deepest of the colours that we're using. And bring that in. Oh, that's loads of that. So I'm actually going to clean my brayer and then keep working it so that I'm not adding more ink to it. Okay. Give that brayer a quick clean. Right, now this time I'm going to spritz it with some metallic ink. I'll use the Perfect Pearls bisque, which I've mixed with water in this sprayer. Give it a good shake until we haven't got any in the bottom of the bottle there. So give it a good shake up. Sorry, Matthew, that was the worst thing for me to do for a close-up for you, wasn't it? Okay, let's give it a spritz. And then again, I'm just going to clear use my bit of paper towel and just dry any over spritzing before I lay the card down on that. Now I've decided on my layout that I want my brayered part to be a little bit lower because I'm doing a greeting up the top. So let's lay that down and let's put it on a bit of an angle. Smoosh it all out. Oh, that's going to be so cool. It's almost like a planet, isn't it? And it lift up. Now if we've got a little bit of excess there that we don't want, we can just dab that off with a bit of paper towel. And we're going to let that one sit and dry as well. I probably actually misted that a little bit too much with water, so we've got a bit of bleeding, but because I'm stamping a wreath around it, I don't mind. But if you're wanting a really clean circle, I would either not spritz or spritz just a very small amount. Okay, clean our little jelly plate and pop it to one side as well. Oh, I'm going to have stuff all over the table for this one, aren't I, Maddie? Now, let's go back to our first card and see how that's drying. That's feeling pretty good. I'm just going to go over it with the heat gun slightly before we start doing our stamping. Just make sure we're nice and dry. Now, we're going to use the Versafine ink for our stamping. So we've got water down here going through to, so water there going through to a lovely sunsetty type array of colour. Those colours have actually worked really well together. So let's get my Versafine black, the Onyx black, and we will stamp a bit of a shoreline. But we're actually going to stamp it up here somewhere, not down the base of the card. We're creating a look of sunset this way and water that way. So we need a little bit of an island in the middle of all that. So I have an idea where I'm going with this card. Oh dear. Now we've got one of our nice big gum trees there. So I'll pop that one in as well. So to do this, I might just grab my scrap paper pad so I'm not getting ink all over the craft map. Okay, let's pop that down. And we can use that to stamp off a few times as well. Okay, so let's pop this in. And I'm going to mask, so I've already got a mask here that I've made previously by stamping Hilly Horizon just on some scrap paper. But when I pop that in there, that means that I can then put my tree, my big tree, and tuck it behind the hill. So let's ink this up with the Versafine as well. Now this is a pigment ink, so it is good to actually let it sit on the card for a minute. You'll get a better inking if you give it a bit of time to absorb. So with my mask in place, and I'm happy for it to go off the edge of the card a bit. A nice press, let it sit for a moment. And that should give us a lovely black impression of a tree behind the hillside. Now we're going to bring in, so this is from the gum tree silhouette set. We've got 2 gum trees, and we're going to, now let me work out where my greeting is going to go. I think it'll go the bottom corner. So I'm going to pop this tree here, and this one is going to have a reflection across the water. So I'll just take that, a smaller stamp, it's okay to take it to the ink pad, as long as you don't press, just tap. Tap's always fine. So now I'm not going to use the mask except for where I want my waterline to be. Excellent. Now to stamp the reflection of that, I need to turn our mask around and mask it this way, but I'll need to be able to see just where that little tree is. This time I'm going to ink up with the smoky grey, if I've got that handy. No, I haven't. Okay, so we'll ink it up with the black, stamp off once on our scrap, and then I'm also going to get the water texture from the clouds, grass and water stamp, and just do the lift off technique and just sort of drag it across the stamp a bit, which will create some water ripple look. Now let's look at where our tree is going to be, and so now we can meet the 2 base bits together. really important step is to actually put on acetate so that it comes out as a fully reversed image. I'll have to do that with another bit of stamping. Okay. It doesn't matter so much with this tree because it's pretty equal both sides. But if you're stamping something that's like curves in one direction, you need to actually do a reverse of it to get your mirror effect. Sometimes I just stamp and don't think. I'm just enjoying myself way too much and I just keep going. So let's do a little bit of background inking and then we'll add some more stamping in there. Really, Kathy. Okay, let's actually, what I'm going to do is just before we go any further, add our little greeting at the bottom. It's going to need a bigger block. Grab this one. So again, I'm just going to ink that up on the Versafine black. And we're going to pop that, just so when I'm doing other reflections, I can sort of see where my text is and keep that area fairly clear. Excellent. Okay. Right. Let's give that a little bit of a heat set or dry with the heat gun, and then we'll start doing some extra blending. Going to pop in our Hilly Horizon mask, and I'm also going to pop in a circle mask that I've pre-made from a sticky note, and we're just going to shade with our big brushes and the Sangria ink. We're just going to shade around that sun shape a bit. Let me just grab my Sangria brush. Okay, now I will tilt the card around because I want to be able to hold those in place. Okay, so we ink up a little bit just on the end of the brush. Start off on your mask and then just gently shade out from it. We can go a little bit stronger up where we've got some Sangria up the top there, but lighter as we come back down towards our horizon. Now, I'm not going to move it all the way. I'm just going to lift it a little bit to see if I've got the effect I wanted. Yep, that's plenty. So we've just created that lovely look that we've got a setting sun happening in the background. I want to create a little bit more line for our water's edge. So I'm going to do that with the orange peel. So I'll just grab myself an orange brush. So this is where we pop our mask in again. Looking for where I want the water line to be, but I actually just want to colour to this end. That's because I don't need orange going all over the hillside there. We just need a little bit in here, and then I can pop some over the top of the hills. So just on the edge of the card. Okay. And because we've got a little bit of orange in the sky there, we would probably have a little bit across the water as well. So pop the mask back in. And we're just going to shade a little bit of orange around there, just a touch. So start off on my mask. So we've just got that little bit of colour reflecting across the water. Now we need to build out that the hillside a bit. We need to fill that in. So let's come in with our black. What have I done with my orange lid? There we go. Again, mask where the water's edge is. And I actually should have stamped my Hilly Horizon on a bit more of an angle. See how it's finishing there? So I'll need to actually, well, we can fake that with the stamp first. Let's do that. Let's finish it off. So it's going to have to be, this end of the stamp is going to have to come up to meet with that bit, okay? See, there's always ways of getting around things that you do where you're not quite, no, not always. Sometimes we really blow it, but usually there's a way of getting around something that you're not quite happy with. So I'm masking our water's edge, and I can line that up with that orange that we've already put on, as well as with the foot of the tree. And I'm looking at where the end of that hillside comes to, and just put in the Hilly Horizon meeting with that and touching down towards the water's edge. Now, while the mask is still there, I'll pick up some of the black, and we're going to just smudge in and darken that hillside. Make it all look nice and silhouette-y. Now, I will have to turn my card around, so you'll be looking at it upside down again, so that I can really work the ink right up to the top of the hills. Now, remember, when you're working with a brush, if you put a bit of pressure on the brush, you'll actually get quite a nice edge to it. So you can put pressure on and just wiggle along, and you get a sharp edge on this side and a soft edge on that side. Only works if you ink just the very end of the brush. If you get ink all over the sides, it's not going to work for you. So we can put our brush down, push it into an edge, and then wiggle that edge right up to the top of the hillside there. And it means I'm not trying to hold two masks in place. Now we're starting to cook with gas, aren't we? Now it's looking good. Right, just needs a little bit of something around the outer edge. And I'm pretty happy with that, actually. Although I should show you the reflection technique, shouldn't I? Okay, let me just grab the other stamp. Sorry, Matthew, I'm going to duck out of shot for a moment and grab a stamp. If you'd like to just zoom in and show a nice close-up of that for a tick. And lucky, the stamp I want. For one of the first times, the little grass stamp decided it was going to be found straight away. Usually this is one that I lose all the time. So this is the smallest stamp out of the grass set. And it makes these great little reeds across the dam, or across the water. So you get this lovely little frondy bits happening. But if we wanted to reflect that across the water, because they're curving that way, we need to create a reflection. So what we can do is actually stamp that onto our acetate. Careful, because the acetate is slippery. Then we just put our acetate, lined it up with the stamp, and just smooth it out. And we'll get a reflection going the same way as our stamped image. Just clean that off, and we'll repeat that for our other bits of grasses. So ink up, stamp it on the acetate, turn it around, lay it very carefully down, smooth over. And of course, if it comes out lighter, that's excellent, because you want your reflections to look a little bit softer than your main image. Now, I don't trust myself to ink up exactly over the top of that, so that's why I'm cleaning off and re-inking each time. And I think I just managed to stick 3 of my fingers into my ink pad. Ink up. Of course, if we wanted it even softer, we could actually just put it off on our scrap paper first. Okay, so that's a really cool way of doing reflections, so that they actually go the same way as the stamped image. That's what I was supposed to do with the tree, guys. Okay, let's clean a bit of acetate before I put my hands into any more ink. And I'm just going to come in with the Wattle stamp and very quickly create a little bit of a framework around that. Now I could come in with the grasses and reeds at the bottom, but I think I'm just going to do a little bit of wattle around everywhere. Is that? Oh my goodness, I think that's awesome. Now I'm almost running out of time, so I'm very quickly going to do our Kookaburra one on our other bit of card. So let's stamp our little Kookaburra. Quickly pull some other things off some blocks, so I've got some blocks to use. Okay, let's just stamp her in the edge there, and I'll just, when I was thinking of doing some embossing on this one, but I've actually changed my mind because we're running out of time. So we're just going to stamp her in there. Then cover her with a mask that we've already made out of a post-it note. So that should just stick there nicely for us. Put our gum leaf wreath onto a nice big block and ink that up with the black as well. So by putting her first and masking her, it means that the wreath will now go in behind her. And then our lovely little saying that we've got, bit of peace, joy and love. What have I done with it? There it is. So this is the saying out of the gum leaf wreath. I've made it so that it's separate to the wreath, which means you can either stamp it in the centre or you can stamp it elsewhere on your card if you like. And let's just lift her out of the mask off there. And there's our little Kookaburra sitting neatly in our little jelly plate circle. Now, I won't stop to do it now, but I will actually do some shading around the edge of that, unless Matthew thinks I've got a couple more minutes.
28.
Oh, very quickly. Okay, let's grab a little bit of Mandarin spice and an orange brush and very quickly give ourselves just a little bit of shading around the edge. Whoa, speed shading. Just to tie the colour into the card, finish it off a little bit. Rightio. And take this messy bit out of here so we can have a look at our cards. So there's the Brayer on the jelly plate, creating some beautiful blended backgrounds on matte cardstock. And the cardstock I've used here is the House of Paper Smooth White, which we do have on our website as well. Okay, thank you for being with us again for another little bit of a crafting adventure, and we'll see you again next time.